Our little white dog ran away, so my mom went hunting the neighborhood in our big white carpenter van. She pulled up to a group of little kids and shouted, "Have you guys seen my little white dog?" The kids screamed and ran off. What obviously sketchy innocent things have you done without thought? My dad went to watch my then teenage sister play field hockey once. It was raining and he didn't want to get wet, so his ingenious solution was to sit in his car and watch the game through binoculars. It was only afterwards he realized just how sketchy that would have appeared to onlookers. I'm surprised nobody approached him. I was in my local park the other day enjoying the sun and reading a book when a girls' soccer match broke out beside me. I felt kinda sketchy, but continued reading. The match wasn't terribly interesting. This year on Halloween I was innocently sketchy. I live in a condo building, so no kids come and trick or treat at my door. I had candy, wanted to give out candy, so I decided instead to stuff my pockets with candy and walk the dog while giving out candy. Luckily my fiance got home right in time to tell me this was a terrible idea. I got to eat a bunch of candy though. I pondered long and hard on whether I want to tell this story. I have a cousin who lives in Saudi Arabia. Now let me get some things straight before I continue. 1. He's half Egyptian, half Saudi. He's related to me by the Egyptian side. 2. The Bin Laden family is a huge family in Saudi. Almost everyone knows a Bin Laden. 3. My cousin's dad, my aunt's husband, is a Bin Laden. 4. My cousin's first name is Mohammed, since it's the most common name in the world, after McLovin. Anyone whose name is Mohammed is usually called by his last name. We just grew up calling him Bin Laden and never thought anything of it. That is, until we traveled together and he got lost in LAX. I found him across the room waiting at the wrong gate. I couldn't move my bags and had to call his name loud and clear to get his attention. TLDR. Screamed Bin Laden out loud in an airport in 2009. I'm more curious as to what happened after you screamed Bin Laden. Was in a youth group as a teenager, in a small town in Canada. We were playing a game called Bigger Better, in which you break into groups and everyone starts out with a paper clip. You then go door to door annoying your neighbors in search of a trade up to something bigger and better. You continue until the end of the evening, trading for successively bigger and better objects until one group wins. We were doing fairly well. After 4 trades we had scored a watermelon. We walked to the next house with lights on and the door was opened by one of the few black families in town. We did our shtick about wanting to trade our watermelon for something bigger and better. The father was incensed. He thought we were mocking him. We had to get our parents to explain to us why he was so angry. I didn't know about this stereotype until I was a little older as well. I might have easily made the same mistake in your situation, but I also understand why the guy was offended. With teenagers, it's often hard to tell if they honestly don't know something or are being little shoots. My cat was missing for several days, so my mom and I decided to drive around and look for her. The cat recognized the sound of my old car and would come running home from blocks away when she heard it. The problem was my mom and I just got new cars and my old one had expired everything and broken tail lights. We took the old car out looking for her anyway. My mom drove so I could keep an eye out for the cat. We got pulled over about a mile from the house. My mother told the cop what we were doing. He stood there for a second and said, "Okay, be careful," and left. I still can't believe he let us go. We didn't find the cat that night, but she came home the next day. TLDR. Told cop we were only driving a legal car because my cat recognized it and cop let us go. You probably only got pulled over because you're a giant Negro. In late 2000, early 2001, I was trying to find a job to earn money to go back to college. I had previously had an internship working for a subcontractor out at the Kennedy Space Center. I wasn't getting any offers or even callbacks or interviews. Still too much fallout from the tech crunch in that area, I guess. My brothers found it hilarious that I couldn't find a job despite being a rocket scientist, computer programmer, but it was technically for rocket launch systems, so close enough to count, I guess. To express that, they bought me the closest bumper sticker to out of work rocket scientist they could find. It read, "Will build thermonuclear devices for food." I eventually got the same internship position, but had forgotten about the bumper sticker. It was still there when I returned to work after 9/11. There were several armed checkpoints on the way to work. Worse, for security reasons we had to have our names on every bag, backpack, briefcase, etc. we brought even before 9/11, in addition to my name, number, and office. I was fond of writing "not a bomb" on the tag, just to avoid confusion. Pro tip: security personnel do not find this honest labeling helpful or funny, at all. I was making a movie for work last week where I had to recruit students to talk about their college experience. Most were uneasy at the idea, but a few relented. About 4 hours in, after my caffeine wore off, I approached a couple girls and, without thinking of my introduction, said, "You girls want to be in a movie?" They said number as they walked away. I said yeah. I probably should have found a better way to phrase that. You wouldn't be saying that had they said yes. You can pretty much be walking down the street and seen a Sketchy these days. There was a story in the local paper last week about 2 kids walking home who were surprised by a man walking on the sidewalk. They never gave an indication of what surprised them. They ran home and told their parents, who called the school, who called the police. Police talked to the kids and then decided to create a sketch and look for this man, despite the fact that the kids said the man never spoke to them, approached them, or acknowledged them in any way. A friend and I were stopped by cops when we were walking because we looked like drug dealers. I was pretty upset. Not me, but one of Dad's favorite stories was his bathroom story that most likely scarred a little boy for life. Okay, so on the surface it sounds bad, but here's how it went down. We went to the movies and my dad smuggled in chocolate in his shirt pocket. Halfway through the movie my dad notices the chocolate melt in his pocket, so gets up to go to the restroom. He goes to a stall and starts to empty out the chocolate into the toilet. In the process he gets chocolate all over his fingers. So he flushed the melted chocolate down the drain and then exits the stall. Just as he's coming out of the stall, a little boy walks in and sees my dad's hand covered in a brown substance. My dad, being one of the most ridiculous people to have ever walked the earth, made direct eye contact with the boy and licked his fingers. The boy ran out screaming, and my dad couldn't wait to tell me when he got back. I guess he was lucky back then, because in this day and age he probably would have gotten questioned by police and had his career ruined. This made me laugh. I live in a town of about 17,000 people, so nothing ever exciting happens here. The other week there was an article about an attempted abduction of 2 boys on our main road. The police were searching for the suspect and had a description of the vehicle. A week later the police find the guy. Turns out that the guy was the next door neighbor to one of the kids and saw the 2 while he was driving home from work. It was raining that day, so he stopped to ask if they wanted a ride. They said no, and told their parents, who told the police. Morons. Now that's just sad. Neighbor sure doesn't mean what it used to. Took me 20 minutes to realize that walking around a mall asking for a wire coat hanger with the story "we're locked out of our car and AAA said they'd be a while" doesn't sound very legit. Also, pet stores. Pet stores have wires you can use at work. I'm a tall person in high school. I'm peeing in an empty bathroom. I think about how creepy it would be if I got so tall I could see over the stalls of the bathroom, so I decide to see if I could see over the stall. Long story short, yes I could. I wasn't alone in the bathroom. Yes, he saw me. Had a twist to that scenario when a child ran up to me, the stranger adult, and asked if I'd seen her dog. I was wise to her tricks and ran back inside my house so my kids could protect me. Stranger danger. I would have stepped back 3 feet, looked in all directions, and while not looking at the kids said no while walking away. No way in heck am I ever talking to some small kid I don't know on the street after all the BS I have heard about. When you're a taekwondo instructor, tying belts on little booger pickers is a way of life. After 2 years of volunteer teaching I landed a job in a new school. My new boss pulled me aside the second day of work and asked me to always turn the kids sideways to at least 2 other adults so that they could clearly see where my hands were at all times. Until that point I had never thought about that. A few years ago I bought a CD by the band The Blow. My ex and I were loading up the car for a trip to Vegas. He was making the last run inside when I yelled up to him, "Did you remember to grab the blow?" I immediately realized how that sounded as it echoed through our apartment complex. You know, that is exactly what that band wanted to happen when they chose their name. The worst I can think of is reading a girl's shirt while completely forgetting it looks like I'm just ogling her chest. Hopefully that's because I haven't done anything worse and not because I'm still oblivious to the sketchiness. Find another guy, make out with him in front of her. Now you can read her shirt all you want. Some younger girls, 14-15 years old, were toilet papering my neighbor's house while I was coming home late one night. I stopped and asked what they were doing and how they knew my neighbor, but they wouldn't respond because they were too scared. So then I proceeded to say, don't worry, I'm not going to rape you. Think before you speak. There's a girl, maybe 9 years old, that lives next door to me in my apartment complex. I'm 29. She has a crush on me, and in typical 9-year-old fashion, she harasses me every time she sees me. Around Halloween last year, she began calling me Michael Myers. No clue why. I began to get tired of it, so I decided to retaliate the next time I saw her. The following transpired. Niner, hi Michael Myers. Hey creep. Niner, why would you call me a creep? Because you're a creep. Little did I realize how diabolical and unaware of social norms a child's mind is. She now calls me creep all of the time. Shouts it. Neighbors hear a child calling me creep and now I'm concerned they think I'm a pedophile. The bus stop is at the only exit to the complex. She shouts it as I drive past. Parents, children, and a cop watching traffic are there. I'm absolutely terrified and don't know how to rectify the situation. Next time she's shouting at you when her mom's around, burst into tears and tell her to stop picking on you. Or you could try talking to her mom. Along those lines, we tried to be funny once. Imagine, if you will, 3 young men in the 10th 11th grade range who just got the ability to drive. Now picture them driving home from school in a primer orange Datsun 280. These 3 idiots, yes I was one of them, decide to be comical at a school bus stop. My friend leans out the passenger window and asks a group of 5 small 3rd 5th grade-ish girls who just got off the bus if they want some candy or a ride. Understandably, the one girl goes off shrieking about the bad man and promptly runs inside her house. Not thinking anything of the incident, we laugh and drive off. 15 minutes later we are stopped by the town police who were entirely less than amused by our antics. What came next was the worst hour of verbal abuse I've endured since being alive, I think. Moms and police together. We thought it was harmless since we were the furthest thing from child abductors, but that's the type of crap you just don't kid around about. So I just graduated nursing school. Second quarter I had maternity. Part of a postpartum assessment is checking the perineal area, which is basically from your butthole to reproductive organs. The purpose is to make sure the female patient isn't bleeding too much and to make sure any tears are closed. So I am in there checking in front of her husband. I am a 32YO male and it took me a little while to get used to this. So they are making small talk with me. I think we were all a little uncomfortable. The client asked me how long I had worked at the hospital. Without thinking or hesitating I say, oh, I don't work here. I look up to see both mother and father staring at me in shock and disbelief. FML. So I quickly apologized and explained everything was fine. I had introduced myself earlier in the day, but they were so tired they totally forgot. As a gigantic manbeast with a creeper mustache, anytime I go clothes shopping with my 13-year-old daughter, just chilling out in the little chair by the kids' juniors' dressing rooms. Trust me, people giving me looks. I'm more uncomfortable than any of you. I tend to use small children as a unit of measurement, although I have no idea how the habit started. One day at lunch with my friends and a couple of people I didn't know, I turned to one of the new people who had a fairly large bag and said, you know, you could fit 2 small children in that bag with a straight face. Oops. I can only fit 1 small child in my bag. It's such a hassle sometimes. My friends and I went geocaching. We were in front of a stranger's house flipping stuff over, as you do, when we were stopped by the local police. He asked what we were doing, and we tried our best to explain, but after a few minutes he decided we were a bunch of nerds and left. One time when in Oakland, a group of friends and I were sharing one large blue generic rental minivan and had gone out to dinner and were coming back to the parking garage. Someone had the great idea to race to the car. So we all raced to the car, and one of my friends had decided stupidly, to create his own gang sign and decided that now was the best time to flash it. So we ran up to what we thought was our car and we all pulled open the doors and hopped in, not noticing though the tinted windows that this was not our car. We barged into the car and lo and behold there was an 60-70-year-old couple watching pee. They immediately pushed us out of the car onto the ground and we ran away ashamed. I can't imagine the fear they must have felt, as I assume 60-year-old are already scared of this happening. Hopefully they learned to lock their doors after that. You'd think they already would know to. Living in Oakland. I asked a crying girl, she was probably about 20 years old, I saw at an unattended gas station if she needed a ride. I was getting gas there at about 4 AM. It was cold out and I was genuinely concerned. I kept my distance as I know I can look like a redneckish type, full beard. She told me where she lived and it was on my way home. I lived a few blocks further south, and I offered her a ride, but she wanted me to drive all the way across town to pick up her boyfriend first and then come pick her up. I don't blame her too much for not wanting to take a ride from me, but I am not about to drive across town to pick up some guy I don't know and then come back to pick her up. Besides, my vehicle is a 2-seater, and I am not a tough guy despite how I look. I am a pretty wimpy guy. If the boyfriend robbed me, he'd probably win. I told her I could call her a cab and she said that was what she was doing when I found her. So I said okay, and left her. It wasn't a dangerous or sketchy area. It's pretty safe where I live. About a block up the street a cop was passing me and I flagged him down and told him about her and the situation that happened and he said he would check on her. Then he got right behind me. I assumed to run my plates. I guess he thought I was the reason she was crying and that I knew her. Then turned around to go back to the gas station. Gotta love being treated like a bad guy twice by two different people for trying to do the right thing. That is how my life generally works. To be fair, he could have just been recording it because you were a reporter. The few time I've had to call the cops, they've taken down contact details. Your license plate is easy and he can be fairly sure you're not lying about it. When I was 8, me and my brother were playing Star Wars and I decided to use a new lightsaber I found. I assumed my mom bought me it so I ran into the living room to my parents. There was a neighborhood watch meeting on. I stood there weaving a dildo shouting, "This is the greatest present ever, mom." I'll never forget the look of horror on my mom's face. That was an awkward situation for my mom to explain. The question is, how did you assume it was a lightsaber unless? OG bus. Years ago I was delivering pizzas and I was in this neighborhood looking for the address of the customer. I was driving slowly and looking at the houses when the man stood in the middle of the road and waved for me to stop. Thinking it was the customer, I pulled up and stopped. The man asked me what I was doing. I was about to tell him I was delivering a pizza when all of a sudden another woman ran up and yelled at me, "You monster." "Ha. I just wanted to deliver pizza," you scream, before wailing loudly and speeding off. I understand parents' concern, but I feel like the don't talk to strangers mentality has made innocuous interactions between children and adults awkward. I lived right next to a pizza shop in my old neighborhood and they had an awesome selection of Mixer 6 beers. I would usually get one and take it back for the wife and I. We'd split it, so 3 beers each. Anyway, my 6-year-old somehow heard the word alcoholic and decided to call me such as I was picking up a Mixer 6. I like to drink but within reason and was so caught off guard by this I stuttered while trying to pay for my food and beer. I'm reminded of the post a while back about there being no good way to refute a claim of alcoholism without coming off as an alcoholic. Oh, this is a good one. I volunteer for the Boy Scouts Cub Scout troop. One little kid in particular was a very rambunctious child who we will call Zed. His family was there on this particular outing, which included his little sister, who was around 6 at the time. We will call her A. Well, at some point Zed and his friends all want to go back into the woods to explore an abandoned building they saw. They wanted me to go with them and after much prodding I finally agreed. Well, A wanted to go too. So she goes back to her tent and tells her mom, me and Zed are going back into the woods with the big hairy guy. Mom flipped crap until she found out I was the big hairy guy and we all had a laugh about it. Late to the party, so this will probably never get seen. Buddy and I out visiting a third friend who moved to Southern California. Went to TJ to party. This was before passports were required to cross. Good times all around. Driving back, hit the border crossing at 3 AM, partly drunk, partly asleep, partly hungover. All three of us are US born, but one of us is of Latino descent. Immigration officer asks him where he was born, to which he replies in a groggy, squinty-eyed manner, Washington DC, which is true, but seems like a total BS answer. As a reward, we got to go through inspection line B. Border agent then asks what's in the trunk. Same guy, now all annoyed and exasperated in addition to being hungover, drunk, sleepy, goes nothing. Nothing but a bunch of coke. We suddenly get all kinds of attention. Wearily my other friend opens up the trunk to reveal the 2 cases of Coca-Cola he purchased at Costco the day before. I'm laughing too freaking hard at this. I was playing with my friend's daughter on a playground one day, and we were sharing some candy. This little girl that had been playing in the area was staring at me with puppy dog eyes, so I asked her if she wanted some candy. She ran over to her mom and asked if she could accept my candy. She ran back to tell me her mom said she couldn't. I was the weird creepy stranger that offered a kid some candy. It still blows my mind that her mom said she couldn't have it. It's better to go up to the mom and ask if her kid can have candy. My family were eating out at a pub restaurant type establishment. We were all here apart from my mum's brother and his son. Now we haven't seen them for a while, at least half a year. So when a blonde kid who looked rather similar to my cousin comes round the corner, my brother winks at him, as he always does, trying to look suave. My 20-year-old brother winked at a 5-year-old who proceeded to cry to its parents about the Blinky man sitting in the corner. Best day of year. The whole of our table was in stitches. I knew a guy who had a commission to make a wooden sculpture. The shaping was done and he wanted to give it a rugged charred finish, so he took it out in the backyard, doused it with lighter fluid and set it on fire with a propane torch. He wondered why his neighbor was giving him funny looks. At that point he remembered that it was for some sort of memorial and it was distinctly cross-shaped. He burned his hands a little trying to put it out. I was in kind of the same situation, except I was in my pickup truck. I asked a group of kids if they had seen my dog, and to my surprise they took off running. I then realized how creepy that sounded and took off. In high school my birthday was always during one of the winter breaks, so in my senior year, when I was turning 18, I was walking out of a class after talking with a teacher on the last day before break, and I said, "See you when I'm 18. Oh. I once, at a convention, found a small child who was lost and calling daddy. Since I knew a number of people there, I thought I could help, so I asked him, "Who's your daddy?" Talking about the adorable flower girl at a friend's wedding, I told the girl next to me, "It's sad when a 3-year-old is hotter than you." She moved seats. Yep, never refer to a child as hot. Had you used adorable then it would have been fine. I was accused of drug dealing for saying hi to a guy once. The full story is a lot longer than that, but basically I said hi to a guy while I was picking up my friend. We did one of those stupid handshakes people do, and the police officer in his car behind us interpreted it as a drug deal. The guy was shirtless, dreadlocked, holding a beer. I was wearing glasses, a shirt and blazer, khakis and dress shoes. My friend had very long dreadlocks who was getting into the car. The cop pulled us over, searched us and everyone in the car, and was very disappointed when he found no evidence of a drug deal. The only reason we let him search us was because we were going to be late for a party otherwise, and we didn't have any drugs on us, so it was fine. Best part is that there were 6 people in the car, and 50% of us were drug dealers. Were the other 50% your clients? We had a group in high school that would meet in the woods to play paintball. We all would meet up at my house and leave to go about 500 yards into the woods to the battlefield, away from any houses or people. So, 14 teenage kids, dressed in camo, FASA paint, masks, and carrying what appear to be semi-automatic weapons, go strolling through the neighborhood on Saturday, the 15th of September, 2001. A couple of our neighbors lose their crap and call the cops. This is the scary part. We were expecting a couple more people to show up, so when we were taking a break between games and heard leaves and branches rustling, we fired some warning shots towards the ground in that direction just to freak them out. 4 cops popped out of freaking nowhere, all with weapons pointed at us. Freeze, put the guns down and put your hands up. I almost crapped my pants. The cops were actually pretty cool, wanted to shoot our guns, hung out for a bit but told us what we were doing was illegal. No more home paintball games. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.